we've said it so often with these player roles. It's all about how you partner them, right? The player roles on their own don't tell you a lot. It's about how the player roles work in combination. And I think a player role that, for me, is the most prevalent, I would say, in the modern game in central passages is our next one, the modern holding midfielder. I think that they're pretty much in every side you can think of in modern football. In addition to their normal holding responsibilities, they're also very often these tireless runners who roam around the pitch and they make a lot of attacking runs as a bots to bots midfielder almost. They're players who need a lot of pace, a lot of determination, and a lot of stamina to cover big passages in both offense and defense. And when we talk about these elite prospects, we have guys like Moises Caicedo, Mano Kone, Ibrahim Sangara. So I would say specifically in the Premier League, these are players which just about every side has at their disposal.
Yes, these are players that are highly demanded in almost every team in the world. So they are great defenders. They can give something extra in attack. So they're the best when they play in a double pivot. So alongside someone who's slightly more creative. And these are players who are not necessarily the most enjoyable to watch, but they are players who do a lot of dirty work, and they're extremely useful in modern day football, where intensity is just so high.
I couldn't agree more. I like how you mentioned that intensity as the final aspect, as that's the one word I would use to describe the modern holding midfielder: intensity, intensity, intensity. Who have you gone for then as your player pick?
So yeah, okay, I went with Gabriel Moscardo, a player that's. I said that they're not the most enjoyable to watch, but I actually enjoyed a lot watching Gabriel Moscardo in Campeonato Brasileiro. He moved to PSG recently. Well, he doesn't play at all. I don't think it was the wisest move for him to move to PSG. I don't think he's ready for that pressure. I think there were better options for him in Europe. Maybe a mid-table club from Spain or going to Portugal would be a better idea. But yeah, he's a prototypical modern holding midfielder. So he does the job in defense. His intensity is crazy. Actually, he's one of these players that gets tired more when he stands. So he's a player who loves to run, who loves to fight, great work rate, tenacity, and he's actually a pretty decent footballer on the ball. So I really hope to see him playing senior football in Europe somewhere, if not in PSG, maybe somewhere else. But for me, he's a top prospect.
Yeah, for me, Moscato has two telltale signs of a modern holding midfielder. The first is that really front footed and aggressive defensive style. So he always looks to win the ball immediately. He's not someone who's very patient in his positioning and tries to close down the center of the pitch always, but he goes and actively seats ball wins and sliding tackles. And the other factor that I've seen him is those extended ball carries. He's very good at just driving possession forward. Like you say, PSG was too big of a step initially, but I really would like to see him playing for maybe a mid-table La Liga side, something like Valencia even. I think that would be a great fit for him initially to start his move into European football at a big club, but not at the stature of PSG. Something that La Liga would be really interesting.
And yes, I would like to bring an example of a great modern holding midfielder who's doing great in La Liga recently. So Dario Esugo, Sporting decided to loan him to Las Palmas, and yeah, he's having a great start to his adventure in Spain, and he's been fantastic so far. So I think a move like that for Gabriel Moscardo would be awesome as well.
Yep, no doubt. I've gone for a modern holding midfielder also at selling right now in European football, and that's 20-year-old Hugo Larsson. He's a six-time Swedish international playing for Eintracht Frankfurt, and his development over the past 18 months has been nothing less than spectacular. He arrived with pretty minimal expectations as a player so young, joining a club as a real European aspirant in the Bundesliga. And since then, he's gone on to really iron out a starting position. He's played over 50 matches for Frankfurt, and that's since signing last summer. So basically, every single match Hugo Larsson has been fit for, he's played. and he's an undisputed starter in Dino Tupmala's side. And what I see in him is a real good balance between the positional discipline that's required for a DM, but also that really adventurous and determined bots to bots energy to move into the final third to get on the end of shots and goal scoring opportunities, and then also be kind of part of the pressing and go front footed into the opposition DM and try and win balls high at the pitch. He has just such relentless energy, those real Scandinavian lungs that you love to have in your midfield. So Hugo Larson for me is still such an underrated prospect. I don't think we talk about him enough outside of Germany and outside of Scandinavia. He's a player who can definitely make a big step still in his career.
This is going to be the third time that I won't fully agree with you, Adam, because for me, Hugo Larsson is more of a box to box midfielder. I remember watching him for Malmö, and I would even say that he was an attacking box to box midfielder. So someone who really loved to make these late runs in the penalty area, who really loved to be in these left half spaces and making his runs there. But yeah, I think it's the sign of maturity that in Germany he drops slightly deeper and he doesn't have this freedom that he had in Sweden. I would just like to say that I respect this guy a lot because when he was 17, he had an offer from Chelsea, and he could move to England, but he decided to stay in Sweden because he said that yeah, he wants to play professionally as soon as possible. And even though I love Cobham, I think it was a very wise decision because very soon after that he started playing for Malmö's first team, and as we already mentioned a few times, it's extremely important to start playing at a professional level as soon as possible. So yeah, Hugo Larsson is not only about the money. So far, his great choices in his career. The move to the Bundesliga was a great one, and I fully agree that yeah, he's one of the most underrated midfielders in the Bundesliga or even Europe.
Yeah, totally agree. I think if he had moved to Chelsea, he wouldn't have 100 plus matches in senior professional football yet. He'd maybe have seven, and one of those probably would have come last week against FC Noah in the Conference League, where you win 7-0 against a Armenian team rather than playing against Wolfsburg, Leipzig, and Leverkusen every week in the Bundesliga. So it goes to show just how important career steps are. I think we've mentioned that basically in every single podcast to date. And then on your point, I do agree that if I had to basically say, is Hugo Larson more of a holding midfielder or bots to bots midfielder, I would tend to see him more towards the bots to bots model. So he's definitely more of an attacking model of modern holding midfielder. But for me, he still is kind of that attack minded double pivot player. That's where I see him.